Well, the dead season is almost over. We're about to wake back up. And what wakes us back up, other than high pitched noises like Camp Hype? Everyone is the best player that anyone has ever seen, and anyone who is in the injury report is basically dead. Um, Nonetheless, though, it's at least news, and that gives us something to talk about here. So we've got the Bucks, we got the Broncos, we got the Eagles, and we got the Giants here tonight. Talk about what we're hearing in camp so far, and then talk about some trades that have gone down. Probably not going to be a longer podcast since we're just kind of getting things started in camp, but I'm sure more to come. But gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well. Happy to finally join.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Glad to have you on. The news is coming out fast and furious. Some of the longtime free agents that have been waiting for a team to sign are starting to sign today. But I think the news that really kicked things off this morning was Nyheim Hines getting knocked out for the year by a jet ski. Who let a jet ski into camp? And, how did it actually hit him hard enough to knock him out for the year? What are some theories?
Maybe jet ski's a nickname for a linebacker.
That'd be a decent nickname. Nonetheless, probably some kind of accident where he got hit by it, and therefore he is out for the year. So those hoping for him to continue resurgence, I was gonna say he was on the Bills now, right?
Yeah.
So those with the Damian Harris shares or others are probably or it's similar as a James Cook. I don't know. The Bills have too many running backs for me to keep track of at this point. Does anyone see anything about who they're expecting to kind of see the uptick from the news here?
Probably James Cook. They're both those two were the 1-2. Nyheim Hines was kind of just the return guy and the change of pace.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think they would probably sign someone else who's got some special teams and pass catching ability.
Would make sense. There are a few of those out there. Or maybe they just say YOLO and just take Dalvin Cook at this point. He was one. Of course, shortly after, C.J. Gardner-Johnson said he went down with a non-football injury or a non-contact injury, grabbing, I think, at his knee. Word has come back that he's now day-to-day, not out for the year. So that large gust of wind you felt at 4 o'clock was me exhaling from the situation. But there's, I think, some of those every year where it's oh God, this guy's out for the year. And then you turn around and 2 seconds later, he's fine. So who knows how true any of that is. I think I saw, what was it, Amari Cooper got hurt or was out of practice yesterday?
Something minor for Cooper. They said it's minor.
I was going to say, barring like literally season ending, is anything not minor at this point?
You would hope not. Yeah, if you're missing regular season time at this point, it's probably pretty major. Some of the, like Kadarius Toney, though, any bad injury news you hear on him is alarming just because of his history. He had a aggravated injury on Sunday.
They already said he might miss week 1.
Yeah, so some players, I think that means more than others if they already have an injury history.
Some of them might be too healthy to go on the PUP and not injured enough to be shut down for the whole year, so they can't really utilize the IR. So they're kind of just one of the, 90 players that they have in camp or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember, isn't there a point during the camp process where if you go on IR at that point, you miss at least, or the PUP at that point, you missed the first 6 weeks? But if you go on at the beginning of camp, you're fine to get activated at any point.
I thought you had to week 1, but I'm not sure.
It's something weird like that. I just know right now, at least by looking at the news, like all the players that have gone on the PUP in the past few days, like they're good to come back at any point. And then IR is like you have to be shut down for the year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought at some point during camp it switches over that even if you're on the PUP, you're at the first 6 weeks too. So
yeah, it probably comes. It might come after like the first day of camp, and like some teams are just trying to skirt that by putting them on, a day or two before.
Wait, what? An NFL team trying to sneak around the rules? You don't say.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that happened. All right. Just trying to think. Any other injuries people have heard about that we haven't talked about?
No injuries. I mean, there's some things that I think we're looking forward to in camp.
Then why don't you kick us off with some of the hype that you're hearing, RJ?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I haven't paid attention to any of it. All I know is there's a new running back in New York who apparently has bad knees, but bad knees are better than a non-existent player like Saquon.
I guess that makes sense. It may have been just completely sarcastic, but someone's saying all I'm hearing from Chiefs camp is Richie James right now, who used to be like the 4th or 5th string for the 49ers. So I have not investigated this at all to see if there's any merit to any of these.
Oh, I've just been hearing about Justin Ross.
In Kansas City?
Yeah,
Yeah.
running with the ones.
Huh.
No, granted, that's only like 2 days in, but yeah, like that's all they care about right now is whether Justin Ross is going to be something or not.
That's going
All
to
right.
be interesting wide receiver core. See who gets those roles.
Yeah,
That's got to be a fake name. Tom Pelissero is reporting that the Patriots are signing former Navy linebacker Diego Fago.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm using the French pronunciation there because
No, that's how it's pronounced.
okay, good.
No, the Denver D end got suspended for gambling.
Yep.
Yet another one. Aaron Rodgers is looking many years younger in New York. God.
On these gambling suspensions, do we know, like, are these happening like after the first ones are announced, or is the NFL just like catching up?
Probably a mix of both.
Because it's ridiculous if these players are getting caught after they've already seen other guys get suspended for entire seasons.
So the guy today from Denver, he was betting on NFL games. So all of this is from last season or the season prior. So a lot of this is going to be catch up.
So I wonder if we'll see a surge of this and then it'll back off.
It's also interesting that the suspension starts like when they grant the suspension. So like the later you find out that you're suspended, the more time you're going to end up missing. So like literally it's as of today that Denver DN's suspension starts. So this time next year is when he could be reinstated. So like anyone that maybe gets suspended during the season, they're going to miss games the following season too.
All right, let's see. Looking at some of the other news here. Oh, the Raiders signed Marcus Peters
Yeah.
to a 1-year deal.
Marquise Goodwin is out indefinitely with blood clots.
Yep. I mean, that was kind of a known condition, though. Like, that's basically why, like, he was having some issues with that when he walked away from the Niners. Came back with, I think it was the Eagles. Did somewhat well there and re-signed here. Ooh, the Lions visit with Teddy Two Gloves. Guess Hooker's probably out for longer than people are thinking. Pat's also signed beyond Fago. Jalen Hurd.
Yeah, I saw that right before I came on. That's interesting. They seem to pick up like any noteworthy wide receiver that's been in San Francisco's system.
And that's kind of all I'm seeing news-wise there.
There's
also the hype.
Reports about Renfro maybe being cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Then there's, let's see. On Sam Laporta, only knew it was a matter of time before he emerged as the tight end 1. The question was whether or that would occur during the season or at some point before then. But at this rate, Laporta looks like the tight end 1 in Detroit. Shocking. One of the first players they took in the draft is looking like a starter at his position.
Right.
Thank you so much for the insight. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it right now. It's only the first day.
So what are you guys hoping happens during training camp? Are there some players that you have your eye on? Do you want to win starting jobs?
I'm hoping for some.
Win a starting job.
I want all the teams I have running backs on not to sign any other ones. Don't sign Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I want to know where these running backs land and destroy fantasy backfields.
I'd be interested to see another Sam Bradford type deal like a couple years back, where forget the Minnesota quarterback goes down like during camp, and then they
Bridgewater,
trade
right?
for Bradford like in the middle of camp, like deals like that, where it's like a starter is injured, and then last minute the team decides, all right, I'm going to pony up some draft picks and go get myself someone from another team that has a surplus. Am I saying that because I think the 49ers are going to have a QB competition that nobody cares about? Yes. Would I like to get draft compensation back for one of them? Yes.
I mean, this is weirdly like a time where I think a lot of teams have a quarterback. They aren't necessarily happy with them, but there's just an overabundance of below average quarterbacks, like starting quarterbacks in the league.
I mean, there's, I guess, a perception, too, that if you don't have one of the top 10 guys, and frankly, I'd say the league probably regards 16 quarterbacks as top 10, based off of kind of what you're looking for and what you think, then, you know, you're fine with what you have because you're going to take another shot at it next year in free agency. But, yeah, at this point, it's weird kind of looking around the league, like the stuff with the running backs, too. Like Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette are still out there. Jacobs and Barkley haven't gotten their deals. You kind of think, you know, what's going to be the thing that really breaks the dam here, if anything does.
Yeah. And to think Melvin Gordon was the first one to get signed. Nobody took a look at Leonard Fournette. Nobody took a look at Dalvin Cook. I mean, they've been traveling around on visits, but
I think it's also a different price point. I think he signed for like $3 million, and I think Fournette and Cook are looking for at least twice that.
yeah. I mean, that sounds about right. I can see them signing for like $6-7 million.
The Patriots have been sniffing around Fournette for a while. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
I mean, that's always the case. Like the Patriots signing X is always a statement in the offseason. You're like, well, that really wouldn't surprise me at all.
Right.
Yeah. I was sad when I heard that Hopkins was on his way to Tennessee and expected to sign, because I just knew right then. I'm like, yep, that's gonna happen. New England's not getting him.
As a Titans fan, I was pretty happy with that announcement. Super Bowl's back on.
I mean, yeah, it makes you just good enough not to be an afterthought in the AFC South.
Right, I know. They kind of got their foot in two different boats right now with what they're doing.
Well, I mean, and I didn't look. I mean, can they get out of Tannehill's money easy enough this year, or is it next year that's the better time to cut him?
Next year would be the ideal time to get out.
All right, so I guess it makes some sense, and maybe that's when it makes sense with Derrick Henry as well. But considering the running backs look to be forming their own mini union at this point, I don't know if that'll fly.
Yeah.
All right. And hey, the Commanders finally got sold, so Josh Harris is bringing the process to the NFL.
They won't be the Commanders much longer.
Oh, I love it.
Another rebrand.
I'm so open to that.
I was going through Twitter. They were saying the Spartans look like the leading candidate. Like, it's already kind of a famous mascot in college. Why would Washington take the Spartans?
Because college is minor league.
Yeah, but I mean, and look, it's because it's a bad name. But no one's going to take the Buckeyes. No one's going to take, the Crimson Tide. Nobody's going to take names that are, sort of along the same lines. And at the same time, like nobody's the Tigers in the NFL.
The Bengals?
They're the Bengals, but they're not the Tigers. I know a Bengal is a tiger, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do because Magic Johnson is saying it's happening after the season. Josh Harris is like, we're not worried about that right now. So who knows?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Harris, though. I'm a Devils fan, and I've seen what he's did with the team. He had the patience to kind of go through the process the way it should be gone through, and we're really well set up as a result of it. So we'll see if it translates. But do
you think
depending on your measurement of success in Philadelphia, there's reason for optimism. Before it was, for the love of God, can Dan Snyder please sell the team?
That has to put the pressure on Rivera this year, which could definitely affect how much of a leash quarterback there has and when he makes that change, if he makes that change.
Oh, everybody's on the clock.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the clock now. Rivera, Howell, Gibson, Robin, everybody. They're all on the clock.
All right. Any other comments about Camp Hype so far? Or,
Not necessarily hype, but one thing that stood out to me in the news cycles recently is apparently Kyler Murray's looking like he's going to be coming back relatively early into the season. And then if I'm not mistaken, Tony Pollard is also going to be coming back fairly early into the season.
Let's keep those under wraps till I get the Colt McCoy sold, okay?
So I just wanted to hear everybody's opinion on people with major injuries that are coming back.
I didn't know
Javonte
Pollard
Williams is going to be there in week 1.
Huh?
Like Javonte Williams is going to be there in week 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you guys buying these players that seem to heal like Superman?
For 25 first and second, you bet, yeah.
Yeah, in leagues that are not NFL GMs, sure. But the people that own those players are not, reasonable.
Yeah, it depends on the discount you're getting on them, right? If you're getting Javonte Williams at a discount, it's probably worth the buy.
Yeah, but I mean, if news comes out and now they're selling them, it's not a discount.
Right.
It's okay, great. They're going to be back for week 1. I'm going back to full price on everything.
Yep. And Kyler Murray is, I know that he is like a top half of the league quarterback for fantasy purposes, but like he's like a $40 million quarterback in this league. He's not really worth acquiring.
So I'm thinking about this, and again, we're past the range of camp, but kind of one of those hypotheticals. Who's the Tennessee head coach at this point? Not Titans, but University of Tennessee.
No idea.
I forget who it is, but again, apparently the offensive system is one of those that everyone's raving about as the reason why Hooker and Hyatt and Tillman and all these guys are so good, and why the quarterback they have this year is going to break all of the records.
Josh Heupel, something like that.
It sounds right. I'm wondering if he's the next offensive genius that we're going to see getting courted by the NFL to go pro next year.
I mean, wasn't he a really good college quarterback?
I don't recall.
He was. He played for the Sooners. He went. Yeah, I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, he doesn't have does he have a national championship?
He was the Heisman runner-up in 2000. He won a national championship in 2001 over Florida State.
Yeah. He knows football.
He won 13-2. That was the score of the national title game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So he's coming back. Sounds like he's trash.
It sounds like it's like I think it was when they played against like Oklahoma or something like that, where it's like, all right, we got Nebraska running the triple. Nebraska versus Oklahoma. It's like Nebraska's running the triple option with Eric Crouch, and Oklahoma's running the air raid.
Maybe. I mean, but he's 45. I mean, I could see him being a name, especially if he gets Tennessee to a good record again.
We're at the point of the offseason where we're projecting potential NFL coordinators.
Well, there's not a ton of news yet, and until
nothing's really happened.
Until that big cut happens that nobody was expecting, or the backfill trade that I was talking about and stuff like that, or the quote breakouts are coming fast and furious on Twitter, then this is what we have to talk about right now.
Yeah, well, I mean the biggest news is what Hopkins chose Tennessee.
Yeah, who's going to find themselves mysteriously unemployed before week 1? That didn't expect it.
Gordon.
So it's gonna be Matt Stafford. McVay's gonna switch from "fuck them kids" to "give me them kids."
Oh man,
no, I
think so poor. I don't even think they could take the penalty to cut him.
Yeah, I don't think they could. I think that if there is a quarterback out there that's going to be unemployed, it's going to be Garoppolo. I think that if he doesn't produce in camp with his injury, I'm sure they could find a way out of that contract.
They've had ways out of the contract already.
Well,
all of these
maybe Josh Daniels will figure out that he's a fucking idiot and should listen to other people tell him to cut Jimmy G. But yeah, I mean, of all the quarterbacks, I could see Jimmy being cut and they just move forward with O'Connell.
Josh McDaniels is going to do whatever the hell he wants there because they can't afford to get rid of him.
It makes no sense.
So yeah, he's expected to be put on the PUP list. Jimmy was. So if he's on the camp PUP list, then he's not going to be expected to produce anything. They're just going to let O'Connell take the snaps for the first team.
The real threat to get cut is Trey Lance.
Absolutely not.
100%. He is like the only legitimate threat to get cut.
He's on a fully guaranteed contract, and he's still 23. Why would they cut him?
Because he sucks. Because he sucks, and he's going to lose the camp battle to Sam Darnold, and Brock Purdy is going to take the job back whenever he gets healthy. And Mike, you can tell me I'm wrong.
Look, I don't know what the hell's happening out there, and as soon as I start hearing something, I'm going to know that it's even more full of it. That it's
right.
The Niners will never tell you what they're thinking. It's
exactly. Literally they say it. It's a total lie.
I feel like Pareg has one of those random number generators, something like that. So it's like, okay, Kyle, what do you want to tell people? We love how Trey Lance looks in camp, and it kind of spits out the Sam Darnold's throw looking crisp as ever. Doesn't refute anything bad about or say anything bad about Trey, but completely talks about it as a complete misdirection towards another player.
Sam Darnold's going to leave before camp even gets started because he's staying in Nick Bosa's pool house and he's got ghosts.
Oh, the hunt.
Did you guys hear that story?
He's literally seeing ghosts instead of figuring.
Oh my god!
Which is hilarious as a former Jets quarterback.
Well, and one that admitted on nationally televised game that I'm just seeing ghosts out there. Dude, just don't go near the guy who's mic'd up to say these things. Come on.
Oh, man.
Please be smarter than that. Please.
How nervous would you guys be as Barkley or Jacobs owners about how much time they might?
Barkley's playing. He's going to play. He's going to play.
I think Jacobs is more risk to not play, but Jacobs is also more risk to lose his job to a guy like Zamir White. The Giants really don't have anybody to replace Barkley right now. I mean, Eric Gray is whatever, but yeah, I would be more afraid of losing my job if I was Jacobs.
Well, I mean, for that reason, I mean, Jacobs, his big story is he grew up homeless.
Yeah.
So let's look at the situation. He grew up homeless in growing up living in a car.
Yes.
Makes it to the NFL. Is now franchise tagged for what? 12 million?
10.
10.1.
$10.1 million. So at some point, like he's trying to hold out to get the guaranteed money, but at some point he's going to say it's $10.1 million. Like,
Yeah.
I want a bigger bag. I want a more guaranteed bag. But unless Christian McCaffrey and Nick Chubb and these guys are going to give me 10% of their salary to offset the stuff I'm not making, it's time to get paid what I can get paid.
There was an interesting theory I heard. I don't remember where I saw it or where I heard it from, but I thought it was interesting as an idea because the running backs are never actually going to get paid again. Like it's always just going to be a cycle through of like 4 years and you're done. It was based around the idea of Isaiah Pacheco because he was a 7th round pick. The dude's never going to make $1 million a year in the NFL, and by the time his contract's done, he'll be cut. The idea was that the quarterbacks should take a percentage of their salary and pay them under the table to make it worth them staying on the team. A guy like Pacheco, who is a very key cog to winning a Super Bowl, is making like $700,000, for example. Not really worth it, given his, given his need to the team. It was just an idea. I thought it was interesting. That would be a very unique way to do it, but I don't know.
I think the running back should have a commercial like the Heisman winners do. Just the top running backs have a running commercial forever, and they can just get their royalties that way.
But it's not about royalties. They want to be paid for what they do. Like I don't know which one of them said it, but they get used, and the more they produce, the less valuable they become.
Yeah, Chubb said that,
which is crazy.
What if the running backs got together and said they're going to start negotiating number of carries into their contracts?
That's not possible. There's no way they can do that. Like you're gonna tell me that in January they're gonna play the AFC Championship game, and the running back is gonna be like, "Oh, I had 12 carries last week. You can't give me more than 10."
I think it would be an escalator.
Yeah, as an escalator
more than anything.
Right, but like that's the point. Like you can't do that. Like you can never know when you're gonna need to run 30 times versus 10.
If
you can do catches, why couldn't you do carries? Wide receivers do catches.
I mean, maybe
they don't limit catches.
The right way to solve this is in the draft, based off your instead of like these fixed costs, it's a percentage of like the average market cost of your position.
The rookie wage scale is hurting the league more than they thought it would at this point.
Well, hurting players,
which is the league.
I think, if anything, it's going to cause a movement away from the 4-year rookie scale, the rookie scale as it is right now, back towards more of a market-based payment. Just because if the running backs are making enough noise saying, I can't get paid, Pacheco, I can't get what I'm worth because by the time I hit my second contract, no one's going to give me any money for this.
Right.
Based off the running back position. So it almost becomes, it doesn't make sense to not let, quarterbacks make what their market value should be worth rather than getting the fixed rate. But then it seems like, there are definitely positions here that running back in particular and some lineman positions where it's like, okay, just churn one in every year and churn them right out.
You know what might help this? Fully guaranteed contracts. That way there's no risk of a running back gets to the end of his 4 years and he only has to sign a 2-year deal and he gets hurt, right? He doesn't have to worry about losing that second year, for example. Like it's just the fact that there is no fully guaranteed contract in the NFL is crazy to me. But I think maybe that would help, and maybe like a floor for positions, like how leagues have cap floors. There should be salary floors for every position.
Not unreasonable.
I mean, none of these are ever going to happen, right? Like, it's not going to be a thing because, like,
Yeah, I mean, if you want guaranteed money, it's going to be more games.
yeah,
Like that's how the NBA can do it. Like
Yeah.
they make so much money because of the like ad revenue for 82
I mean, the
games.
NFL still makes more than all of them, right? And for under like a 16 or 17 game schedule. But I get what you're saying. I don't know.
Do you think the market corrects itself? Like, 'cause part of this reason is that teams feel they can just go draft another running back in the middle round to do the job.
So
do less athletes go to wide receiver or different positions, and then running back becomes more scarce?
It's definitely possible. You are starting to see some type of a correction with a lot of these rookies this year getting guaranteed money.
Yeah. I thought Tony Reale said something the other day on Around the Horn. And I thought it was just like a passing comment. He was like, "Why don't they just come out as athletes, and they can just be versatile to a receiver, running back, whatever they need to be, and just do like what they do in college. They're just athletes. They're not running backs. They're just athletes."
Well, I mean, at some point you want to see the capability of performing the role that you're coming out as. So if you want to come out as an athlete, then you have to have a team that is willing to use you as sort of that hybrid receiver running back type role.
Well, his comment was based off the argument about the tight ends from a couple of years ago. Whenever they started arguing that they should be paid as receivers,
right?
That was his point. Like, if running backs are being, used as receivers, pass blockers, and and runners, they touch the ball more than anybody else except for the center and quarterback.
Right.
Why wouldn't they just be a different title?
So yeah, I guess I'm not explaining this well enough. Teams take players based off of traits that they've scouted. So if you were a running back in college and caught the ball sometimes, I don't care if you come out as a running back, a receiver, a tight end, or an athlete. If a team takes you, they're taking you based off of what they know that you're going to be able to play that position that they're drafting you for. And what it says on your position coming out, they're taking you based off of skills they saw for you to be able to do that at the next level. So coming out as an athlete, if you produced as a running back in college, they're likely going to stick you at running back.
Yep. Day one of training camp, when your coach says line up with the running backs, you're not going to go, "No, I'm an athlete."
Right.
No, you're unfucking employed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
All right. So where did we finish the trades last time? Was that let's see. Last week would have been the 17th, so we definitely talked about those. Did we get we got the Broncos double dip last time, I think, right?
We talked about my two trades with
Eagles.
RJ.
Yeah, and then I think the RJ follow-ups were post-pod. Is that right, RJ? Is that your collection?
Yeah, the other two were post-pod.
Yeah, the Bengals deals.
All right. Well, we'll get into some fun ones here in a second. But, yeah, it's two post-pods between the Bengals and the Eagles. Bengals basically giving up Eno Benjamin, Ashton Doolin, Troy Hill, and a Bears 24th third for Henry Anderson, Michael Davis, Terrell Edmonds, and a Bears 24th fifth.
I think this is fun.
Yeah. Basically a third to fifth, and then a couple other pieces for basically Edmonds. Yeah.
Did you extend Doolin?
No.
Okay.
He has 2 years left on his deal, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do it at any point.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think that if Doolin plays well this year, that's especially fun for you.
Yeah.
You have a very unique wide receiver room of youth.
I'm a big fan of him, and I don't see myself getting rid of him. Which means I'll trade him next week.
More than likely.
Right,
because he'll break out of camp and be the name everyone wants.
Yep.
Speaking of the name everyone wants, Bill continues to cycle top receivers on his team. This time, moving off of Devonta Smith and Zaven Collins to get Garrett Wilson and 2/3. Apparently, Garrett Wilson is now BFFs with Aaron Rodgers, so looking good on that side of things. And Devonta Smith, he's only number 100 on the top 100 players in the NFL. So, based off of those two facts, huge win for Bill.
Where
It's a
was
huge
Garrett
win for Bill, regardless. But that was
Where's-
well played, Mike.
Where's Garrett Wilson on that list?
Well, he has
Probably in the 20s.
top 99 players haven't been named yet, and they haven't named who's not on the list. So he's either on the list or he's not. For more hard-hitting analysis, please stay tuned to this podcast, everybody.
I love the analysis.
I hate that trade.
Yeah, I'm disgusted with both of you that you would even partake in this, but I'd rather have what Bill got.
Same. I think, yeah, I know there was a lot of talk of like tiers and like Smith and Garrett might be in tiers that are similar. They're not for me. But the target share is going to be astronomically different this year and likely going forward. So I want Wilson 10 out of 10 in the two-player swap there, and the thirds for Zaven Collins, who doesn't even have a role really with this new regime in a floundering, tanking team. I was not happy with this trade as someone who's been trying to get Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and Collins gets real expensive in a couple years because he was a first-round pick. Yeah, and Wilson has the extra year of cheapness and cap. Yeah, definitely the Broncos side.
That was one of the reasons I wanted Wilson, because I have Jamar Chase coming up. I have very expensive defensive players. Like it's going to be a tough salary cap to work with, regardless of the increases that we get every year.
Yeah, but you're not really in a position to be going all crazy and selling off your linebackers.
No, I will say this: if I hadn't made the deal for Jelani Tavai with you, that deal never would have happened.
Fair.
It's not a comparison of the linebackers. It's just the depth is still the same.
Yeah. I see it as like, so Singleton's pretty decent. Watt's exceptional. And then, like, there's a significant drop-off. Like, you can kind of view Tavai, like, the combination of, like, Marty and Tavai is, like, safe because you have, like, some combination of the interior linebacker, or at least somebody in that box every snap.
Yeah.
And then the rest are just, like, they're dart throws of particular players that you like. But it's like you have two linebackers. And, like, I would have, I am definitely not a fan of Collins, but I would have at least liked to have him,
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this. Like, I've kind of felt like this for a little bit here. One or both of Beavers and Roseboom is going to be a main guy in their team. So I'm just hopeful for that. Mapu sounds like he's going to be playing more and more as the season goes on, and then who knows what Hudson's going to do. So it was just a shot in the dark. But, I mean, I have DeMarco Jackson and Mark Robinson on my taxi if I need them for any reason, like if either of them pan out. But I don't know. It was a long-term look, so to speak. And plus, I really have like an Ohio State bias.
Well, everyone's disgusted by you at this point. That's the real takeaway from it.
Thank you.
You said something there, Bill, that if you didn't get this linebacker depth, you wouldn't have done this trade. I think that's a bad mindset for the offseason because you have time where you can add some linebacker depth. And, like, I think in a vacuum, you want your side of this trade 10 out of 10. I hope no one is not making deals because their depth would be lacking at this point because there's still moves to be made.
Well, people are not making deals because their depth is not there. Like, that. Like, that there's 32.
I know people are not making deals because they're not active.
Yeah, for sure.
People are trying to get back up.
But I do think, like, in the long term, I think it would be easier for me to move those thirds for depth anywhere than it would be for me to move Collins. Just like generally, not because he's bad, just like generally speaking.
Potentially.
All right. Let's see. Browns moving Ogundeji and a fourth to Colts to pick up my third next year. So Colts gets a little bit of depth, but I think that puts them right up against the years total. So obviously, once things start happening in camp, some of these rosters are going to move around here. But I think there's a lot of teams dealing with that years squeeze. But then we see probably one of the more exciting and puzzling deals. The Cardinals, in what seemed poised to really win the NFC West, not unchallenged or uncontested, but the clear favorite, has now traded off Kenneth Walker, Alexander Madison, and I feel like they've made one other major asset.
Jalen Warren. They moved Jalen Warren.
Warren. I thought I was thinking of one other one. But nonetheless, moving Madison for McCutcheon, Tavarius Robinson, Keir Thomas, and then the Buccaneers 25 first and 25 second. So basically, filler for the current defending Super Bowl champions, first and second in 2025.
Yeah, he's starting to stockpile 2025 first.
Yeah. It feels reasonable for Madison, a first and a second, but I also feel like if he had just waited until the trade deadline or even after the season, that could have easily become 2 firsts. It's also just confusing, like why he did it in the first place.
Oh man, Bill, I thought you were going to go a completely different direction.
Okay. You can argue against it. That's fine.
No. So like, if Madison's the player you want, definitely like pay up for the player that you believe in. I have no problem with that. But like, you could have gotten 2 really good not really good, but above average running backs for that first and that second at some point during training camp or like during the first few weeks of the seasons. Like, you could have bought a player that breaks out and is going to have a significant role like after week 1 and be safe for your other 2 weeks of double headers and probably still held on to the second round pick. Now, like, Madison might be the guy and might outperform any of those players that you could buy for that price. But
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I think the way my team's constructed and what I think my goal is and what it should be this year, I'll take the bigger player and pay up for it.
Yeah, no, and frankly, Madison has his question marks. In split time or limited time, he was able to show out in some games, but I think there were plenty of owners who were also, I'd say, still twice shy. Where a couple years ago he was going to be the guy, and then got replaced literally mid-game by Mike Boone, who went nuts for like 153 yards in the second half. So I'm optimistic, but things could go sideways on him quickly.
Yeah. And as like to the points Bill were making earlier about upcoming salary cap challenges, it's nice to have a player too on a controlled contract, a young running back on a controlled contract, because Eckler's not going to be that guy forever.
that's true. Man, it's crazy that Madison's been in the league for 5 years already.
And he's only 24.
20.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys that's at risk. I mean, if they add a Zeke or a Fournette or someone like that, it's going to eat into his carries. So one of those teams I'll be watching closely. Hopefully they don't sign anybody.
I don't think anybody outside of the players that are already rostered are really going to give him like much of a threat. It's just, didn't they draft? Yeah, they have Dwayne McBride, who they took. All right, they took him in the 7th round, and then like Nwangu was a decent return guy, and if I'm not mistaken, actually took Madison's job as the return guy. And then they also have Ty Chandler, so I just don't think he's the clear-cut guy. But with that said, like I said, any guy that you could buy that breaks out into training camp or breaks out in week 1 is, probably doesn't have the upside of Madison.
That's fair. And again, he should start with a job. Again, barring injury, it's you're getting early season points. If something happens to him mid-season, hey, you've got probably the first 3 or 4 weeks, which account to half of our regular season, where he scored for you, or at least was in the conversation for you. So, for the price, that's not a bad get.
Yeah, I just think what better year to continue to go for it than after you just won? So might as well keep going all in till the wheels fall off, right?
Yeah,
I definitely agree. You set the obviously you set the bar. You won the league last year, so it just improving on the roster is definitely definitely a way to go. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'd probably do the same thing.
All right, so them's the deals. 45 minutes, not a bad walkthrough here. I'll say thanks to everybody for joining. We'll get to the fun part here. But again, it is a little bit light on news here, and we've got deals to try and make happen. So until next time, enjoy and keep those trade conversations rolling.